everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different video. As you can probably tell by the title, this is like nothing that I've ever spoken about on my channel before, but I feel as though it's something that is really important, and I think these are experiences that need to be shared. So today I'm going to be telling you all about my first ever experience of the contraceptive pill, how it basically nearly ruined my life, and how now I'm coming out the other side of it. And the reason I haven't filmed this video until now is because I did want to make sure that that was the problem. But now I've had a few months, I'm feeling so much better, and I know that that probably was, well, it definitely is the problem, and I'm just going to tell you guys about what happened. So I went on the contraceptive pill around April time of 2016. It was second semester of the first year of university. I had never been on any form of birth control before, and that was at the time that I started seeing my boyfriend, so obviously I thought the best decision was to then. Okay, so I am the worst and forgot to charge my camera battery. It just died, so I've taken a break. We're back again. I just hit myself in the chin. Ugh. But anyway, getting back into it. So oh no, Mira's going for a shower now, isn't she? Okay, so this entire story starts in April 2016. That is around the time that I went to the doctors and first inquired about going on some form of contraception. I kind of had it in my head that I wanted to stick to the pill because it felt like the least permanent option. It would have been the first time that I'd ever had anything to do with contraception, and I didn't really like the idea of having something inside me, so I always had in my head that I wanted to get the pill. So I went to the doctors, they went through lots of different health checks, we spoke about family medical history and just like everything they normally do before they assign you any form of medication really. And after our little chat I got prescribed Regevidon. Now Regevidon has a lot of negative news surrounding it. Doctors don't tend to prescribe Regevidon to people that have any family history of heart problems, blood problems, anything like that, because it can, is it thicken or thin? I think it thickens your blood and can give you the risk of blood clots and things. So if you have any family history down that, that's generally, they will not assign that to you. And that's where a lot of the horror stories come to. People might have not known about their family history and gone on the pill and then encountered these problems. But for me, I knew that I didn't have that family history there, and I thought, I'm always one of those people that doesn't kind of want to write something off without trying it myself, and probably maybe not the best thing, but I decided that I would stick it out, see what happens, play it by ear for a while. If it doesn't work, it's always the type of thing that you can change. And I would just like to note that a lot of the horror stories surrounding Regevidon are like physical, so that's what I was looking out for. So moving on to the kind of problem side of things. I was on the pill for a few months and it was absolutely fine. It seemed fine, nothing had changed. I was getting nice regular periods, they weren't getting any heavier or lighter, it was all just normal. It also made it so much easier because I then could kind of track when my period would come rather than just relying on it coming whenever it fancied. So at the beginning it was perfect, it seemed as though everything had sorted out, it was all happy, all sunshine and roses, but then it started to go a bit wrong. So I do just want to note before we get any further that I am anemic, I have an iron deficiency. It's something that kind of got flagged up a few years ago, and ever since then I've been taking iron tablets as and when I kind of need a top up. And tiredness kind of comes hand in hand with an iron deficiency, so keep that in mind. So as I said, I was fine for the first few months, everything seemed normal, and then I'd say probably after summer when I was getting back into uni, I started to feel really tired, dizzy, lethargic, and at the beginning I thought it was just my iron levels had dropped again. So I went to the doctors, got some tests done, and it came back normal. They'd noted that my iron had gone down a little bit, but it wasn't anything that substantial. So I got prescribed a new pack of iron tablets, everything was fine. I went away, started taking them, but I didn't notice the change that I'd normally noticed. In the past, whenever I'd started taking iron again, it would literally feel like I'd just got a new lease of life, and that didn't happen this time. And it just started to get worse and worse and worse. I was constantly sleeping through my alarm. Like, I was so exhausted that I would sleep through my alarm going off like full full volume for hours. Like if I had a 9 a.m. I would wake up at like 11:30, my alarm would still be going off and I just hadn't heard it because I was that tired. And it started getting really bad when I would go to lectures and I couldn't physically keep myself awake. Now it got to the point that I'd be sitting there, anything that I was doing, I could sit there for about 20 minutes, and after 20 minutes of sitting in the same position I would literally just feel my body just shutting down basically. I couldn't stay awake in a lecture to save my life. I couldn't even sit on the sofa and watch a TV programme without falling asleep. I just like constantly had to keep moving, or it was as if my body would just go into sleep mode. And that made it really difficult in uni. Like I am so surprised that I managed to kind of keep my grades at a good level, because I literally could not stay awake. And that's when I started to get a bit more worried about it, because I was like, this is getting ridiculous. Like this isn't just my iron levels playing up again, because this has never happened to me before. And also to note here, this would be probably around like October, November time last year. So it's when I moved out of my student flat and moved back into halls. And for a while we did think maybe it was stress as well, but as soon as I moved back into my halls, things just got worse again. So it wasn't like the change, it wasn't the stress of my full flatmate situation. It seemed to have nothing to do with anything that was situational. So as I said, it got to around October, November time last year and I was like, no, I was like, this is really bad. So I started phoning the doctors, asking to make appointments. I was asking to get blood tests for things like vitamin B12 deficiency and just anything that I could possibly think it could be. At one time I went to the doctors and I got about like 10 of those little test tube things taken out of me, and I was just like, are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to take this much blood out of my body at once? But they did, and they sent them away and they came back with nothing. Everything was fine. And that is when I started to really get a bit worried, because I felt bad constantly going to the doctors complaining about being tired when there was nothing that was coming back. And it didn't really help that I didn't feel like I was getting the support that I needed from the doctors. Now this is something that's kind of a common occurrence in life, but if you are a student, doctors tend to make little assumptions about you, which then kind of influences what they do to help you. So for the first little while, whenever I went to the doctors, they would constantly just bring up the student thing again. Are you eating well? Are you eating your vegetables? Are you getting the right nutrients from your food? Are you exercising? Have you been out drinking? Have you had a big night out recently? Have you taken drugs? And it just got really soul destroying, because I like to think that I eat well, I make the effort, I cook my own food, I do exercise somewhat. At that time I was going to the gym a lot to try and see if it would help, and it just kind of constantly felt like I was being shot down. And after a while they did start listening and taking more blood tests, but when those blood tests all started coming back negative, the only other thing that they could say was throw it back to the eating well and the exercise and the drinking. And it got to the point last year that I couldn't even go on a night out because I did not have the energy. If I went out and drank, I would fall asleep in a club toilet. Like, that is how bad it got. And I just, like, I couldn't go out. I couldn't go out with my pals because I knew that I would just fall asleep somewhere. So, and this kind of cycle with no end goal just went on for months. I went home for Christmas, came back, started back at uni, was still feeling horrible, and every time I went to the doctors I would just get turned away. And it actually really started to get damaging on my own mental health, because I started thinking that maybe there is nothing wrong with me, maybe this is just how I'm meant to be, maybe I'm never going to actually be able to go to a proper job because I can't keep myself awake, maybe I'm going to have to drop out of uni because I cannot stay awake in lectures, and maybe I'm just making things up, maybe this is just my head playing tricks on me, maybe I'm actually fine and I'm just attention seeking or whatever. Everything was going through my head and I just thought there was like no way out of it. I thought that I was just going to be like that forever. So now on to what I would maybe call the turning point of this story. One day I woke up for uni and I opened my eyes and I literally couldn't see. Like, it was just white, everything was white. My brain, I felt as though my brain was trying to like come out of like any hole in my head. It was horrible. I had the worst headache, and I don't normally suffer with headaches like ever really. If I get a bit dehydrated then I might get like a bit of a sore head, but I've never ever had bad headaches, I've never had migraines. So I woke up this day, obviously because I had uni, I tried to get myself to the bathroom to start getting ready, and I literally stood up and fell back down again. I had no energy, I couldn't see, like, it was as if I couldn't balance myself, I couldn't hold myself up because my head was just so preoccupied with like booming. It was horrible. So I got back into bed and I had a lecture for that first hour, and I thought, right, I'll go back to sleep again, I can watch this lecture online and then I'll get up to go to my tutorial. So I went back to bed, set my alarm for an hour later, and then when it went off I got back up and it was like exactly the same. Like I could not open my eyes because my room was too bright. And bear in mind, this is before I'd even tried to open the curtains. Like my semi-dark room was still too bright for me, and it was the worst. Like it was so horrible. And the only thing that I could liken it to is maybe this is what a migraine feels like, and obviously, as I said, I'd never experienced it before, so I didn't know. So I called my mum, and obviously she was really worried because this is something that's just gone on and on and on, and there's like no resolution to it. So she said basically, like, just stay in bed, uni doesn't matter for today, you can put in like a sick note, call the doctor and see if you can get anything. So I called the doctor, explained what had happened that day, riddled off everything else that had happened over the last few months and how I really wasn't feeling that great. And I got told that the nearest appointment that they had was in 2 weeks' time, and they could put me through to like a duty doctor to phone me back, but that's all they'd be able to do. It could be a few hours, they're really busy today. So I was like, right, fine, whatever. I was like, just get someone to call me back. I might not be alive when they do, but thank you. So I put down the phone and ended up just spending the rest of my day lying in bed with my eyes closed. And then eventually at about 10 to 6 that night, I got a call from the doctor, and it was a new doctor that I'd never spoken to before. It was a male doctor, and he was actually really nice. For once, I felt like someone was actually listening to me. I felt as though he was going through options that other people hadn't even thought about before, which seemed a bit ridiculous, like the amount of times I'd been there. And basically he said that the doctor's surgery was closing in about 10 minutes, but the Morrison's pharmacy would be open till 8. He was like, if you can get yourself down there, I'll phone down to them. They can put aside some anti-migraine tablets and some anti-sickness pills for you. If you can get yourself down there, that's great. It was also on a Friday, so he was like, we're closed for the weekend, but I'll phone you back on Monday and we can see if we can get you in quickly and just kind of have a talk over everything. And I cannot tell you how nice it felt to finally feel like someone was actually listening. Like, I just felt for the last like 8 months of my life maybe that I was just constantly being told no. I felt as though I was a hassle to everyone that I was speaking to, and for this one doctor to actually care enough to listen and be helpful and do things that no other doctor had ever done, it literally felt as though I could see light at the end of the tunnel. Like, before anything had even happened, just talking to this guy, I was like, he is gonna fix this. So my boyfriend came over, we went down to Morrison's and I picked up these anti-sickness pills. So I got back to my flat, took these pills, and then I was like, oh wait, actually I've not eaten anything today, so that's probably not that good. And literally as soon as I thought that, I just started feeling like so spaced out, like it was so weird. So like I quickly like ate a bit of toast and I felt really weird, so I was like, I'm just gonna go to my bed, I'm gonna go to sleep, see you in the morning basically. And then I woke up the next morning and I felt like 100 times better. Like, I managed to open my eyes, I felt like a normal functioning human being again, and it was as if these pills had like taken away everything from the day before. They didn't make me feel 100%, but they made me feel so much better. So I had my weekend, happy as Larry, and then on the Monday, I think it was actually the Tuesday, I went to go and see this doctor. He managed to squeeze me in, he had like a spare 15 minutes. So I went in, sat down with them, we were talking over how these pills had made me feel so much better. He was asking if I'd ever had any migraines or headaches before, asking about the tiredness and the dizziness and being lethargic all the time. And then he turned to me and he was like, wait a minute, what contraceptive pill are you on? And literally as soon as he said that, I was like, oh my god. I was like, how has nobody thought about this before? I was like, holy moly. I was like, you've cracked it, son. You have cracked it. So I said that I was on Regevidon. He complimented me that I'm the only person that he's ever met that can actually say that name correctly. And he was like, yeah, I think we might have caught on to something here. And what he told me was basically that Regevidon, obviously it's a combined pill, so it has progesterone and estrogen in it. And for a lot of women, the added estrogen that you get in a contraceptive pill just doesn't bode well with you, and that is what happened to me. So for a lot of women, when you start taking a pill with estrogen in it, it can make you develop headaches and migraines. But I mentioned to him that I'd never really had headaches or migraines before. It was literally just that day, a few days before, that I couldn't open my eyes. And he turned around and said, well, when you think about a migraine isn't just the headache. A headache is a component of the migraine, but a migraine encapsulates the headache, the dizziness, feeling tired, not wanting to eat, not being able to lift your limbs properly, and that is all the stuff that I'd experienced for months before then. So basically what happened is I had been having all of the symptoms of a migraine without having the headache, and that is why it kind of gone unnoticed for so long. So this doctor turned around and said, right, we're getting you off that pill, we're going to put you on a progesterone only pill and see how that works. It was like, you can take it for a while, see what happens, come back in a week, see how you're feeling, come back the next week, come back in a month, and we'll just keep track of things and hopefully it will make you feel better. So literally that day I stopped taking Regevidon and I switched onto Desogestrel, I believe is how this one's pronounced. It is a pop pill, a progesterone only pill, which means it doesn't have the estrogen in it. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. And I kid you not, like 2 days after I started taking this pill here, I felt so much better, and I was kind of skeptical that it was just my brain playing tricks on me because that's what I wanted to happen. But literally weeks later, months later, I am feeling so much better. Like, I cannot believe it took that long for someone to think that it might be my pill, especially when Regevidon has so many horror stories surrounding it. But I'm so glad to say that now that I have changed my pill, I am away from estrogen the devil, that I am so much better. I feel better now than I have felt physically in like probably about 2 years, and that is insane to me because for so long I was just putting it down to being anemic, and clearly that wasn't the only thing that was playing into it. So now I've got my iron tablets, I've got my lovely estrogen free pill, and I am thriving. And that is the story of how my contraceptive pill started to ruin my life. Honestly, last year was probably one of the darkest times in my life, and I know that a lot of it would have been to do with the situation with moving out of my flat, the situation with no longer speaking to any of my pals at home, but my contraceptive pill played to that so much. Like, I felt emotionally horrible, and because of the pill I felt physically like dead. It was horrible, and those two things together just made me feel like shit. And as soon as I changed my pill, I started feeling so much physically better. I am now working on my mental health and getting it back up to scratch, and I feel as though literally like the clouds have aligned? No, the stars have aligned, and I am feeling so much better now than I felt this time last year. I am honestly so happy. So that little end bit kind of went off on a little tangent, but yeah, I'm going to end this video here because I've spoken for so long. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below, because this is something that I feel like needs to be talked about a whole lot more than it actually is. Obviously I'm not a doctor, but I can maybe help in some way or another. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you again next week with a new video. Mwah. Babe. See ya!